Okay. So I wanted to speak about the new situation.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
is there an art market fatigue? You said that you are sunsetting your gallery, which is very poetic.
Well, very poetic. I actually that actually doesn't really sound like verbiage that I normally use, but it's quite sentimentally appropriate, I suppose. I mean, I've been sort of talking a lot these last couple days. What can I tell me? Ask
No,
me
no, but
something more.
is
Yeah.
there an art market fatigue? What's your feeling?
Oh, art market fatigue. Okay. Um, art market fatigue. Yeah, I mean, it's art market and art world system fatigue. I think it's art world system fatigue, um, to be specific. Um, I've been doing this a long, 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 long time, 35
20
years
years?
really from the
Ah,
start. And
25.
and I've been I'm part of that generation that is part of this what we have constructed. Like my generation is all the people that you know and some of whom you love, whether it's a Sadie Coles or an Emmanuel or it's a Andrew Kreps or it's an Anton Kern or it's a even David Zwerner and the Hauser Wirths and the Sean Regans, and this is this whole generation. So it's really gone from 0 to 100. Um, we all kind of know how it has grown outward and upward. And really, since '09, it's been ever outward and upward. It's been constant expansion, um, with little bumps, maybe. '08 was a contraction. That's why I use '09 as the kind of key date, which is 15 or 16 years ago now. COVID appeared and was apparently going to be another sort of massive speed bump, but it turned out to be another kind of illusory marker, which resulted in kind of a further exaggeration of culture and markets, and we all sort of benefited from it, but really, I don't think we did. I think it was a short-term benefit for a long-term pain, um, to be frank. You know, everybody at that moment was, wow, it's amazing. We don't need to like even host really shows or we don't need to do art fairs. We don't need to travel. People were flush with cash and were interested in buying. I don't need to walk you through that. Um,
And after?
yeah, and then after, things you could feel it really shifting in 23, tail end of 23. It felt very clear that things were shifting. I mean, I think fundamentally it's a paradigm shift happening in the world. And the art world was always feeling like it was immune to these shifts. And that's why I'm saying it was short term gain for long term pain in a way. The immunity that the art world sort of felt like it was in, and the way the system is constructed, and these sort of codes that have been put in place vis-a-vis markets and access and who's dictating who's getting what for how much and on what terms.
You
All the
speak
different
about the dealer side or the buyer side?
Well, I'm mostly speaking from the dealer side because but I understand both sides of it. But clearly, things have shifted to such a degree that those codes and those terms that were established are out the window, right? Um, I think, I think, I was seeing, maybe it was actually your interview with Alan, my friend Alan Schwartzman.
Yes.
Um,
Was very
that was,
successful on Instagram. It was crazily successful.
of course it was. Of course it was. And of course, I've worked and known him for so long, and he's really always been like one of the greats and still is. But he was so blunt, in that conversation, much like how I usually am and am, or it was like, I was like, fuck, you know, I mean, because Basel, the experience was like, not that I needed one, but it was an enunciation of what's going on. It was like such an emblematic enunciation of what's going on. I mean, I have, you know, I did Basel since 1999, and I know all the ins and outs and ups and downs. And I
And
love the team. I love the team. I love all the people that I've known over the
what
years that have
happened?
organized.
What was the
But
annunciation about?
what happened?
They are
It's like
looking for the annunciation.
it's like the octopus eating its own leg, you know, and then it grows another one, and then it's like this. I mean, you know, it's again uh the implication of the ever expanding realm. You know,
Too
people talk.
expensive? The fare too expensive?
Well, of course, all these things have mattered. One second, I'm just going to move over here. Just one second. um, yeah, sure, everything has gotten you know, expensive. But the issue is it's super complicated. But the fundamental fact is that this iteration, same as last iteration last year, you know, nobody's going. Like the way it used to function, whether it was, you know, in 21, which was a banner year, as you know, and years prior, I mean, it was like everybody, you were there. You were in Zurich the weekend before. You were there all week. You were in it to win it and committed, and you were there to look at great art, the best art
And
that the
this
world
year
has to
was
offer.
different. This year was different.
There was no one there. I mean, it was like anybody. And some of this stuff, you know, I'm not going to speak about people I've talked to on the record, you know, because it was privileged information. But dealers that I know and love for decades, you know, saying, you know, like I got an email today from one of the greats, you know, and he was like, yeah, my team was also like, what in the fuck are we doing here? There's no one here. There's no one in the stand. There's no one conversing. A younger dealer, one of the really great up and coming dealers, who desperately was trying to get into Basel forever, and they never let him in. And now he's in. He's like, it's like late to the party, right? No curatorial conversation, not even a gentle conversation, just about wow, great painting, or like just a art fan. You know, Thursday through Sunday, I think there was not even a legitimate conversation to be had. And when you're standing in the aisle of a major art fair talking to your colleagues on opening day, you know you have a problem. If you
But
have time to
yes,
talk
but you
talk
take
to
the
your,
decision before that, no?
yeah, of course. Obviously, this was not done in haste. This was done over time. I mean, look, I had a
Because
whole vision and a
I
plan. I had a
interviewed
whole
you.
plan.
I
I know
interviewed
that. That's why I'm
you in
saying
March.
I know. Things were churning through me, and I was observing and looking at things, but I'm like, well, on my way to completing construction on a new space in New York City, by the way. You know, I have a lot going on, but you know, it's also like, not to be too West Coast, but you know, I it became much more than all the things we're talking about for me. It became much more about I have lost my core focus and path that I originally was on when I began this thing.
Which was about
And
what?
yeah, about art, about the actually about purely about, you know, the art. And then the rest of it kind of happened, and I kind of learned as I went. I just need to do my body and brain and soul are calling out for a different experience. Okay.
So
And I
you
know
have
that
a lot of
I'm
courage
not alone
now.
in that. Tell me.
So you have a lot of courage now.
Courage.
Yes, to speak
I
out
hope so.
about all
I
that. So what
right.
is really
Yes, I
wrong
do.
and what can change?
What's wrong and what can change? Well, what's wrong is many things that are cultural, which are very difficult to shift. I think that I don't really quite understand. I have this beautiful space that I operate out of here in LA. That's my primary place, and I've been doing show after show after show at a very high level. Very museum quality, often multiple shows at a time. And I don't really know who the audience is anymore. And I think the audience has shifted. And the sort of history that I come from and propagate and that I'm interested in is maybe not the thing that the audience that whatever the audience is, what they want. Which is okay. But
So the problem is about LA, or is it about the
no,
audience
it's
in general?
definitely not LA. It's definitely not LA at all, because I
Because
know
LA
New
is
York
not.
is having New York is having as many problems, if not more, as any other city. I mean, any colleague or any person in the art world that doesn't tell you the blunt truth, they're lying for sure. Because all the calls I'm having for the last 2 days are blunt and to the point. And every sector from the high to the middle to the low is experiencing this seismic shift. It's a full stop fact.
So it means
Um,
it means the audience has shrunk.
I think that it's a fact. It's definitely a fact that the collecting audience has shrunk. That doesn't mean that art isn't selling. We're selling art. We're selling art today, but it's just the kind of mania that it became has completely gone away. Now, in terms of vis-a-vis art, like, I think probably this is a great thing for art. I mean, great art is great art, and it's always going to be that way, and I'm always going to be involved and support that. But it's like the constant churn, and the fact that there's like, what are there, like 1,500 galleries in the world of note, like, it's just, it boggles the mind.
So what to do?
Well, I mean, in terms of like the current, I, that's why COVID was so nice, because so many of us were communicating more than we ever had. We created these kind of gallery associations, both local and global, and people were talking more than they ever had. And it was kind of a really beautiful thing. Elders giving more mentorship to youngers and giving advice and what have you. But as soon as COVID stopped, everybody kind of hopped back on the merry-go-round, or the lazy Susan, whatever you want to call it, just spinning, spinning and spinning. And you can still make it work, quote unquote, but it's well,
Meaningless.
a lot of the joy and the fun of it is certainly gone. And I'm not using flowery, hippie language by any measure. It's just I don't know. I I need to operate in a different way. And for a lot of the artists that I know and love and have worked with, I intend to do all kinds of things going forward. But it just personally has to be in a different way.
So do you have easy too early to imagine the future?
Too early to imagine the future. Not really. Well, I mean, I'm leaving anything open. I mean, I can't dictate I mean, I have a very clear idea of what I'm going to be doing, but I'm not quite ready to, share it. I'm not, but I just think there's going to be a lot more change is going to come before things can settle into a new way. I think that's one thing that I'm clear about.
But how can you secure your artists if you still want to work with them?
Well, I mean, it's based on relations. It's just, it's if I have something I want to do with somebody and they want to do it, we shall do it. But it's not a fixed, yeah, it's not a fixed agenda.
So you don't want to keep on putting them under your shelter.
I cannot post them under my shelter in the way in which I have.
And so you take your time to have a new scenario.
That's correct. You know, over the next 6 months, I'll be able to, like, gently articulate some things.
And you
To be frank with you, I mean, this is the quiet part of the art world that a lot of people don't talk to. I actually have a private life, and I have private interests that intersect with the art world. I'm actually married to an amazing woman for a really long time, and I have a very beautiful family. And my wife is a extraordinary writer and healer. She's a ethnobotanist and someone who's very involved with plant medicine. So we have always had this idea of merging art and healing together, because I've always seen art as a major form of healing. One of the most vital things in my life, just like you. It's as important as medicine. So our particular journey is going to be much more related to things related to, consciousness and a different way to work with artists in the world in a different way. That it's not really market. It's not taking it from a market perspective as the front. It's much more of a pure zone for a little bit.
You need more meaning about what you do, right?
I do.
D'accord.
I do. I mean, I've been doing so much here, a lot of it philanthropic. We've done a lot. We've got like 3 books coming out in a month. The books, the exhibitions we support in institutions, um, by artists who are really some of the most vital and important ones living, but that don't have a real market presence. This is the quiet part of the art world that a lot of people like yourself do know about, but a lot of people don't acknowledge. They all focus, and that's the problem, is that everybody's been focused exclusively on the market, which is obviously important to make shit happen. But for some of us, for many of us still, it's the quiet part of it, is that the market helps pay for the things that we're passionate about. And so now I need to find a new way in which the passion can kind of be self-sustaining. And I think that there's a way to do that, actually. It's just to remove all the cloak of the system that we have been so complicit in constructing.
And so what does your wife think about what you are doing now? What does she say?
She is shocked, because she said the other day, I never in my life imagined that you would ever come to a place where you would shift, because I'm very so she's applauding. This is more about me evolving than anything, I think, and acknowledging my evolution, and I'm kind of stepping into the void in a way.
But that's
Um,
super cool.
I appreciate you saying. I mean, I've had a lot of people tell me this, but I mean, I'm telling you, this is not.
Yeah, you
It's
need to face
for
it.
somebody who I'm like, I have an ego. I've concretized that ego to the system I've built, and I'm the man, but I actually want to function as a man in a different way.
Okay,
And I
so
want to model something different. And it's not something I've invented. It's something that's actually literally just pouring through me.
bon, so we just began this series. Next
Oh,
step,
you,
you
I
contact.
I can assure you, yes, that we could, 100%. Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Bon, merci beaucoup.
Of
Arigato
course.
gozaimasu.
No, don't touch my stay. Yoroshiku.
À
Thank
bientôt.
you, Judith. Thank you so much. Okay. You
Thank you.
take care. Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.
Ciao.